everybody, we've got a short video today. This is the Chanel Imperiale quad. This is part of the Byzantine collection. And these are starting to drop online. So I wanted to get an eye look with this quad up. I have done swatches of all four. Hopefully I'll remember to link the video that has the swatches of all four of them. I've got swatches up on Instagram. I've got swatches on my husband's skin tone versus mine for two of the quads up on Instagram as well. These are limited edition. I don't know how much stock there is. They dropped at Macy's, which was a surprise to me that it would go there first. I know Nordstrom is going to have them. I'm sure others will have them. And then, of course, Chanel.com. But here in the US anyway. But I don't know, I don't know how much stock there really is. So I was like, you know what? Let me get an eye look with this particular quad up so you guys can see it. Relatively short video, just going to put it on the eye. And if there are comparisons that you're looking for, swatch comparisons, let me know in the comments below. I'll make sure those are up on Instagram. All right, let's go ahead and get started. First of all, I'd say this is the warmest of all of the quads, mostly because of this shade here. This is definitely like an orangey yellow gold. This one has more of like that coral, a little bit more watermelon shade. This is a plum, and this shade is like a sparkly taupe. It has a little bit of a shift, like they all do. But depending on how much of this you use, I think that's going to determine how yellow, how gold it is. And like with all the quads, I think there are different ways to use these, and I think there's ways to use only a couple of the shades and create a more or less sparkly, kind of look. In each one, there's one shade that shifts, and then the other shades are usually, warm and cool. Like I said, this one is, I think, the warmest, but we'll have to see. So we're gonna go in with that watermelon shade. Let's see what that looks like on the eye. I will say, as you can see with my swatches, I have used all four, and they are all pigmented quads. Now, they're not super pigmented. They're not I'm looking for like a Pat McGrath kind of pigment, but they're all pigmented. So if you're, and I've seen some comments like this, if you have a quad from the Byzantine collection and you're not getting any pigment, it's just, not any payoff at all, there might be something wrong, because all of mine are very pigmented for, for the shades that they are. I mean, this watermelon-y shade, that's pigmented. So if you're not getting any payoff and there's no shade, I don't know. I think, there might be some that weren't, I don't want to say made correctly, but I'm just saying, I have not had that problem. Now, I am very pale, and there's obviously a difference depending on your skin tone. I'm not saying that, but these are pigmented. And all of the opalescent shades, have definitely been. And in the Baroque one, the shimmer shade that's in there, the shifting shade that's in there, that one is super sparkly. So, I mean, I really hope that there's not a quality issue, quality supply chain issue. They should all be the same, regardless of where you buy them or when you buy them, but it sounds like there might not be. So anyway, just putting that out there. All of mine have been, really pigmented. All right, I'm gonna take this deeper shade. We're gonna deepen that up. I think that's true with any product. If you see it, someone use it online, whether it's me or someone else, and they're, and they're swatching it and it's pigmented. Brushes are a different thing, because different brushes can bring about, different levels of pigment. But if they're swatching it and it's pigmented, and then you get it and it's not, there might be something wrong with the actual product that you have. And, if it's not doing what you want and you're spending $80, return it. I mean, it's not that's an expensive price point. I said the same thing about the Yves Saint Laurent quads that were, the glue wasn't right. When you're spending that kind of money, it should be done correctly. And no, I don't have any details about where they went. I don't know. Maybe they're fixing that issue. They shouldn't have had the issue in the first place, but Hopefully they're fixing it because that's just weird. Okay, so you can see this is like a warm reddish. You know, the shade I put on first is more of that like corally shade, watermelon shade. The shade I put on top has more of that like plum. When you mix them together, this is what you get. But this is going to have that more of that reddish look, which is one of the reasons that this was my least favorite one. You know, if my husband hadn't gotten it for me, I don't know if I would have picked this. I don't think I would have picked this one up because this color story is not really my thing. It's kind of like a sunset. I have a few like this. Chanel had a few when they did the tweeds. Guerlain. There's a couple that have this like red and yellow kind of thing. Now, if you like a yellowish gold though, and I think on a deeper skin tone, that'll be really nice yellow. That's a really pretty golden yellow for someone who has a deeper skin tone. On me, my skin tone is cooler and, you know, I'm pale, so it's not, I don't know, I don't think it's as flattering, but definitely pigmented. Yeah, that was my concern when I started seeing people say it wasn't pigmented. I'm like, mine are pigmented. All right, so I'm gonna go back in with that watermelon shade. Just kind of, and you know, things are subjective. Like what somebody would consider pigmented, you know, maybe someone else doesn't. Because I have to say, guys, like I just did the Dior video. That'll be up this week too. The beige couture is not a pigmented quint, but I actually really like that. But you know, some people like that will be, to them, like that's plenty. And to other people, it would be absolutely a waste of money because they're like, I want 5 super pigmented shades. So, you know, it is subjective. All these things are. That's why I always say it's my opinion. Same with like sparkly. Like some people will call something sparkly. I'll call it luminescent. Some things people will say it's glittery. I'd be like that. I don't feel like that's glittery. You know, again, it just depends on your perspective. So that's what this looks like. You can see that like kind of sunset look, you know, like the gold and the reddish kind of. There's a couple quads that come to mind that I'm already like, hey, I should probably swatch these for you guys on Instagram. I would say the Guerlain. There's one, I can't think of the name. My brain is still not working quite right. But there's a Guerlain, and then one of the tweeds from Chanel. I could have those up. But I think that's a similar color story. So now we're gonna take this shade, which I think is gonna really change the look, because this one, like I said, it has this taupe kind of shade. It's just totally different. Yeah. So putting this over it, and I'll go with my finger here so you can see what it looks like when I just use my finger. And then on this side, I'll use a brush, my Kolinsky brushes, and you can see, we'll see what, you know, it looks like. Yeah, the taupe shade is a beautiful shade. I mean, the other shades are pretty too, but they're not like my favorite colors. Put the brush here. There is fallout from this one. Yeah. Definitely fallout from this one. Not as much, but there's fallout. So if you're somebody who likes like a warm color story or like plummy watermelon shades, this is going to be the one that you like. And then that gold shade in there, if you don't put that top taupe shade over it, like you saw the look before, it's going to look much more golden yellowish. But if you put the taupe shade on top of it, it sort of negates the gold. All right, I'm gonna take the plum shade and use that as liner. I like the plummy shade a little more than I like the, I'm calling it watermelon shade. Put a little on the top. Okay, that's the look. I'm gonna put on mascara to finish it off, and then we'll come back and talk about the quad. As promised, a very short video today. I try to do shorter videos. Sometimes it's hard when I'm doing something like more comprehensive. The Dior video is gonna be long because I'm doing a lot of different swatches and lots of comparisons with other things, but don't worry, tons of timestamps. So the look is actually very pretty. They've all been very pretty. but this is definitely the least favorite of the four. This is for somebody who really likes this particular type of color story, which I do not. I've never really been a fan of the sunset, sunrise, whatever you want to call it, sunset, sunrise, golden, plummies, and like pinks. That's just not my thing. But if that is your color story, there you go. This is the one. I think the shimmer shade, whatever they're calling it, the shimmer shade in here, the shade that's shifting, it neutralizes the yellow. So if you like the yellow shade, the yellow gold, using this on top of it makes it more neutral, as you can see. So if you want to make it more golden, you know, don't put this all over the eye, use it as an inner corner highlight or something. I think it's a pretty shade, this golden shade. It's just not like, I don't really like a yellow golden shade, but I mean, I think it's nice. I think, you know, this one is, and I'm just going to like put a little bit more on so you can see what I'm talking about. This yellow is the most unique shade in this quad, because the other shades are, you know, those watermelon plummy kind of shades. So the yellow is probably the most interesting for the regular shades. Like this plum, I'm sure you have it somewhere. This is an interesting like watermelon shade. I think it's pretty, but it's not really my kind of color. But the yellow is a pretty golden yellow. Yellow is one of those things, I don't wear a lot of yellow. It doesn't look good on me. But if you're somebody who likes a yellow, golden yellow, this is a really nice one. This shade, the shifting shade in here, like I said, it's more of this like neutralizer of the yellow because it's like taupey. So it's interesting. I think they did that on purpose to kind of, you know, balance everything out. But I guess it depends. If you really like that yellow shade, then that's going to be kind of like a downer if you put that on top of it. I think if you used these three shades, you're going to get a much cooler look, because this is definitely cool. This is cool, neutral. This is cool, and this is very warm. So yeah, I think it's interesting that they've put these together. Again, I think it's a pretty quad. It's the least favorite of the ones that I've used because I just, you know, the color story isn't really mine. But let me know what you want to see it swatched against. Guerlain and one of the Chanel tweeds are coming to mind immediately. There's probably a Dior. There's probably a couple. There was a time there, I'd say about a year ago, a little longer than that, where like there was a ton of these, where that sunset, sunrise look, like every quad I had, like there was just a bunch. And if my brain was working correctly, I could remember what they were, but I can't. So I've now done looks with all four of them. And if you are interested in picking them up online, you know, and also you can still order from Rhiannon, and I know Murray in Atlanta has them as well. I'm trying to think, if I were to rank them, I have a really tough time between Crystal and Baroque, believe it or not, because it has that red in it, but I really like it. I think I would put the Baroque first, just because I think it's really unusual, and the shade in there, the shimmer shade, shifting shade in there is really impactful. So I think it's the most unique. So I put that one first. Then the Crystal, which I think is much more everyday friendly, or like user friendly, or like it's more adaptable, if you will. But I love the greens and the Baroque. So I have to say Baroque is first, then Crystal, then Venetian, then the Imperiale. That's how I would rank them for me personally. Yeah, those are the four. Like I said, this is pretty. It's not my color story. It's not my favorite. And if you have these and you're finding that there's no pigment, again, like I was saying while I was putting this look on, that sounds wrong to me, because I would understand if you said, like, I don't think it's pigmented enough, or I don't like the shades or the formula. Okay, I mean, that's, again, preference. But there's pigment here in all of the ones that I've used. And so if you're not getting any pigment, then I think there's probably something wrong with your quad, and you should return it, because that's too much money to pay for something that has no payoff whatsoever. So I'm really interested to hear if you've picked these up, if you're picking any of them up, what your favorites are, because it'll be interesting to hear, like, you know which ones are most popular. And as soon as I know, like, other places that have launched them online, I will post. I posted about Macy's as soon as I saw it. I was actually on Macy's for a whole nother reason. But, you know, if I see them pop up on Chanel, I have heard September 1st, which when this video goes up is in a couple of days. But like I said, I had this feeling that they were going to pop up a little bit early, and they did. So other places, as I see them, I'll make sure I post. And, you know, if you see them and you want to let me know, that's great too. I really do appreciate that. So thanks so much for joining me today, guys. I really do appreciate it. And I hope to see you in another video really soon. Bye.